Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Season 11 of the Quacken Smite League. My name is Judas Priestley, joined today by Sam Krober. Krober? Sam Krober? Sorry, that is
We
Sam Cobra coming in. We don't have cobras where I'm from, so it's all new to me. But anyway, Sam Cobra and I will be bringing you guys a game from the Shallows division. It will be Eternal Vanguard versus Kappa Corp. Now, Eternal Vanguard actually won their game 2-0 last week, whereas Kappa Corp lost their game 2-0 last week. So both sides coming in with totally different intentions. But specifically, Sam Cobra, I want to focus on Kappa Corp, who are certainly going to be looking to bounce back today.
Yeah, this is Sam Crowbar here,
Hey, Sam Cobra.
looking to crack open the case of whatever. I don't even know what you do with a crowbar other than probably bad
It's got to
illegal
open
things.
something, right? Like,
Yeah. I'm sure there's legitimate uses for a crowbar, but I don't know them because I don't use them. But that's okay. There are probably also legitimate uses for a cobra. But where are you from, Judas, that you don't have any cobras in your vicinity?
I am from Wales, so we only have dragons. There is yeah, certainly a lack of cobras. I'm pretty sure we have plenty of crowbars though. Like I'm sure there's something. Again,
Uh,
like we said, they've got to open something. So I think I've opened a can of worms with a crowbar by calling you that. But we move on.
all right. Well, as we get ready to move into our picks and bans, um, we do have, like you mentioned, we have Capricorp in the Order side, Eternal Vanguard responding on the Chaos side. And we got to see if there's anything after these first week of matches that teams have scouted out that they specifically want to target the other players on the team, or if it's going to be more kind of meta style bans thrown out.
Yeah, this is of course, like you talked about, we are in now the second week of this season, and it's almost where you have a benefit here as the losing team. Now, of course, you always want to win your first game, but if that's not going to happen, what you can at least see for specifically Kappa Corporation here, as they were the losing team last time out, they can look at what Eternal Vanguard brought to the table. What worked for them? How did it go? And what was their game plan? Because it clearly worked for them. And when you are playing in a draft league like this, the easiest way to keep chaining some wins together is just keep doing what you're doing, right? If it worked last week, there's no real reason why it couldn't work this week. So I'm sure plenty of the Kappa Corporation will have been sending out their many workers to do some scouting operations onto Eternal Vanguard. But looking at the moment, like it's pretty standard bans across the board.
Yeah, we see the actually I think a little bit interesting. We see the Bake banned out from the Order side. Bake Thoth is the first two bands. Thor and Kukul Khan are the Chaos side band. And that goes to basically say that their solo laner doesn't know how to play or is not comfortable with playing the Bake Kajira. He
Good
has
point.
gotten nerfed, um, but he's still pretty good. So I would say he's still in the contention for top pick band. Kulkan Thoth, both of the long range poke but great ultimate secure mages, also taken out of the equation, meaning that we have bit more potential contention around objectives. And lastly,
Yes.
Sobek and Thanatos with Bologna pickup.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bit of symmetry coming across in these bands, Bakakujira, Toth, and Thanatos, very similar to Sobek, Kukulkan, and Thor, very similar jobs across the board. Maybe we do see a bit more Bakakujira solo compared to Sobek solo, but even then, you could play something like the Bake support, but it doesn't matter, has been banned out, at least in this first game, but high priority coming to solo laners now from both teams. The Bologna coming through for Kappa Corporation, a very standard top pick. We've been seeing a lot of this guard lately. But Vamana now locked in for Eternal Vanguard. Now, I want to get your opinion on this one, Sam, because Vamana is, of course, a god that we've seen highly prioritized lately. But over Osiris?
Yeah, Vamana, he did get nerfed, but he's still very good. He is not as strong in the ultimate as he used to be. Um, but it is a lot of survivability. It might be one of those things, especially given that it was picked immediately across from the Bologna, which is not usually a smart way to draft where you
Yeah,
know that they have their soul laner already locked in, and you're picking your own presumably soul laner. Again, Vamana can be flexed into the
Unwilling
jungle.
to win peace
Uh,
by force. You
we'll
shall
have to
not
see if
pass.
that is something that Eternal Vanguard choose to do, but I'm not anticipating it. They also have the Geb, which again isn't very committal. Doesn't really do anything against the Bologna, so I'm assuming these are just kind of more comfort picks that Eternal Vanguard have been either practicing or their players are not as comfortable as in counter picking and kind of want to run a certain style that they have thought up or have practiced. We do see the Hachiman and Giannis, both very safe backline on the side of Kappa Corporation, making it pretty difficult to dive those with a Vamana. Maybe a little bit easier to dive the Hachi if you can, make sure his ult is down. But the AMC is a really interesting look. I would like to see that in mid, and the nice interaction to see there is the cripple from AMC's Stinger does mean that Giannis is unable to go through his own portals and
excellent
can
point.
be there to lock him down when, you know, if he's able to get that off and if all the stars align.
Yeah, it's interesting here that Eternal Vanguard have sort of taken the meta playbook at the moment and just thrown it into a fire, doing whatever they want with their picks and bans. Seeing that Bologna was top picked by Kappa Corporation, it leaves the Hachiman wide open. And Eternal Vanguard said, nah, don't want it, not interested. And instead, throwing this AMC out quite early, and it is very early, right? AMC, not a god that we see banned ever, like ever, like in the history of Smite ever. So very interesting to
That's
see
not
it
true.
put.
AMC was definitely very strong for a while. Uh, but
But
what
like
I
right
do
now,
Yeah, right now I think that he is fine. I think he has a lot of pressure in mid. I'm assuming that this means that they're going to go a double hunter comp or a double like auto techer comp kind of thing. It is going to be interesting because a lot of times against those
Glory
kinds
be
of
to mine
compositions,
eyes.
you do want to. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. It looks like with the top three, at least, the Kappa Corp have, that they are going to kind of let the backline fend for themselves and maybe commit more to the dive. That's what I'd like to see out of
yes,
their bottom two is having them more commit to the dive, given that they already have a pretty safe backline. And yes, you have Geb who has incredible peel, but a lot of the times what you also could consider doing is just killing the front line, right? Killing the Vamana.
absolutely.
And then it is very hard for hunters to peel themselves, especially stuff like AMC. He does not have great self peel. Has some slows, has a good amount of movement speed, but not like the jump and mobility. Uller, on the other hand, has a lot of ranged poke and is going to want to try to get this poke onto whatever targets, squishy targets ideally, and prevent them from being able to assist with this dive.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see this Ula AMC composition. Very rare that we see specifically these two
Pleasure
hunters
crushing
together.
upon
Like you said,
Zen.
AMC, a god that we almost always see heading to the mid lane. But Ula, kind of can do a bit of both, right? But likely in this draft, going to be the one heading to the dual lane. And just like you said, Kappa Corporation bringing that heavy dive with the Bacchus Raven. I'm seeing a Sylvanas hover here, and I absolutely don't believe it. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Chuck coming in to possibly provide a little bit more solidarity to this Eternal Vanguard frontline. It could be a Chuck, or it could be a Vamana in the jungle. If you had this draft, Sam, which way would you go for it?
It depends on where I am in this draft. If I am one of these backliners, especially AMC, uh, I'm really hoping that my front line has so much pressure and is creating so much space, that I don't. have to worry about their dive. It's difficult with someone like a Ravana. Bacchus really is going to want to commit to the dive as well. It's just a
Yep.
matter of whose dive goes better. And I think that a cock in the jungle is scarier than a Vamana in the jungle. Both of them can be easily. It just depends a lot of comfort. But Hawk has a lot of sneaky damage. I mean, Vamana does plenty of damage even in solo, especially with the way his passive works, where you get additional benefits from building physical defense.
Absolutely.
That being said, the only magical character on the side of Eternal Vanguard is Geb, who now his ult actually does a decent amount of damage. I've been running a good amount of Geb lately, and he's a little slept on with damage, but not a character that you traditionally think of as like a damage support. He's really a peel support,
Yes.
which means that there's these fights could get the key for Kappa Corporation is to space out, make sure that they are in range to be hitting stuff, because Eternal Vanguard is going to want to just throw, hail of arrows over random walls or random places, throw random like honey and stuff like that, that does a good amount of space control. And I'd say overall, the space control of Eternal Vanguard is very scary. All of their characters have, except for Uller, have a lot of kind of AoE space creation potential. But the flip side is that you don't have, with these both hunters being traditionally ability based
Yes.
characters, you don't have the greatest objective burn. So you're really relying on the space being created. And if that space is unable to be created for whatever reason, then it can all fall apart very quickly. As
Well,
we
let's
are
see, exactly how this goes, right? Eternal Vanguard, like you said, if it goes well, it could be scary. But will it go well? We'll find out as we actually head on in to this first game between Kappa Corp and Eternal Vanguard. It shall be El Dirty Bubble piloting Vamana in the jungle. I'm not too surprised by that, but like you said earlier, it could go either way. And it's a very strange composition for Eternal Vanguard here. I'm really interested to see how it goes. I always like when teams kind of bring their own style, and it's sometimes risky, but man, if it pays off, it's going to be frightening to come up against this team.
we have seen this a little bit of a weird meta on these teams where we see both jungler and mid laner go to split the speed, or at least the sides of the speed, trying to get the mid laners a little bit ahead rather than the junglers, where it really reduces the ability for the junglers to have as much of an impact on the side lanes, which is when they're strong, because the mid laners, for the most part, it might be just at these levels where these players are not disciplined and they're more likely to int for solo stuff. But it kind of does mean that there is going to be a delay, as we see the junglers are still level 2 and the mid laners are level 3, and that means that these junglers are not the threat that they could be, as either one of them have really strong level 3s. Looks like Dirty Bubble is trying to do some damage, but now, yeah, not much coming from the mid lane. So I personally hate this start when I'm jungling. It looks like Dirty Bubble might be in trouble.
Yeah, big trouble. Ooh, off the mark with the unstable vortex, but has the basic attack instead. Does a glove tuber. So there's the first blood going the way of Kappa Corp. He had that start like you discussed where it puts the mid laners ahead a little bit more early. And yeah, unfortunately there, for Dirty Bubble, pays the ultimate price for it.
And the other thing is, like, I mean, it might be like a weird handshake agreement between these teams to do this start. But if you choose not to do that, your mid laner gets to shove at least a few minions underneath the tower, if they go straight to the wave. And that lost
Uh-oh.
gold, as we see a little bit of a gank, but not really much threat. Geb has his shield. Looks like no relics really used in that engagement.
A bit of a scrap over in the solo lane over this first scepter, and Brown Brazilian comes off on top with that, gets that first all-important scepter, and I think in solo lane in particular, very valuable to get that early scepter. Now, possibly a little bit of danger for this Bologna, but more danger for Super Spider Pig on the left-hand side. This dual lane of Eternal Vanguard coming out on top with 1 kill. Can they find the second as well? Crooked Stick cannot get the bladed arrow, so it will not be a kill there. And all the while, Eternal Vanguard make a play on the right-hand side of the map. Do not get a kill onto Brown Brazilian, but do at least pressure them out enough so that they have to back.
Yeah, it looks like Dirty Bubble was considering a blue buff invade, but seeing that Bologna's going to be full health and HP with the teleport, decides against it. I think that's a smart move. Yeah, on the left side, we didn't get a full chance to see exactly what happened there, but looked like a little bit of maybe over-aggression in the side of Super Spider Pig, thinking that he's going to follow up his Bacchus's setup, but it is deceptive how quickly you take damage from things like archers and Uller abilities when you're trying to do. So, yeah, I do expect this Bologna to have the totem advantage over this Chalk, especially seeing that he is going physical defense as his first like real item after Bluestone, which means he's just going to have worse clear than the Bologna, who naturally has just the auto attack kind of clear advantage.
Yes.
Chalk, one of the nice things about Chalk is he actually gets a ton of protections from his 2, which also got buffed to do the most amount of damage now, in terms of his ability leveling. So not taking advantage of that by, going early into protection means that you don't get to use the advantage that Chalk has of just getting free protections by you doing damage, and instead you're kind of getting the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I would have maybe seen this type of build to come out from the Kappa Corp solo lane. Hold on, more action over on this left-hand side. Super Spider Pig looks like they're going to get away for safety just this time. So again, more danger on this left-hand side for Kappa Corp. But like you said, going for this defensive start for the Scotia, not always the recommended way, especially because, the don't forget, of course, Eternal Vanguard have 4 physical characters in their composition, and the one that is not physical is Geb, so it might as well be 5 at this point. This whole fantastic axe coming out from Crooked Stick takes a lot of poke in response though, and actually gets the intoxicate as well. Oh, the mounted archery coming in. They really want to go for it. Not going to get it. And instead, Glubtubas gets a kill onto Dirty Bubble in the mid lane. Bracking might get out alive. Glubtubas has no mana to work with. That will be that, but it always seems to be where we think there's going to be the action. It's not there. It's going to be somewhere else.
Yeah, it was interesting that fight in dual lane, a little bit of a dropped kill. I think that just ordering of abilities, use it, instead of trying to use the ultimate for the kill confirmation, like using it for the slow and the CC, I think would have definitely netted a kill onto Crooked Stick, but just the choice of abilities. Now they are diving. It looks like Bacchus does not want to commit. I think that would have been worth it. Even if he flopped, he probably would have even been able to get out. But maybe he might have flopped to get in range. I wasn't able to.
Yeah.
So, interesting there. Of course, no ultimate on the Bacchus means that he can't just slam his jug down and get everyone drunk. But, yeah. Again, a couple times now, the Crooked Stick has kind of gotten away with his life, where, maybe kind of drop kills or lucky play or good play from Crooked Stick.
Yeah, it's been tight so far. I think is the best way to describe it. These 2 teams clearly want to brawl it out. We've seen plenty of action back and forth already. Now, Mystical Mail online for the Scotia might mean that this Chalk has a bit of an edge over the Bologna and was clearly trying to push that advantage. But here comes Lion Unicorn in just to sort of reassert themselves on the map. Say, hey, you're not going to have total freedom over here, so don't get too cozy with all that damage you're going to be pumping out. But it's chaotic is the best way I can describe it, but it has netted itself a 2,000 or so gold lead, maybe 1.5k lead for Kappa Corp at the moment. And is this how you would have expected this game to go? Would you have said the Order side would be the ones coming ahead early on?
Yes, given that Bologna early before Chalk gets a chance to level his 3, like once Chalk levels his 3, that's actually a phenomenal ability, and it's a phenomenal pick against both of these hunters. Oh,
That was
that was close.
close. Like, I don't think it would have killed him, but for style points and, like, just morale, like, yeah, I would have been a big fan. Instead, Glubtubers just wants to make them move all the way over here. Doesn't have an impact on this dual lane. Oh, catches the dash, gets the bees out from the Giannis as well. Does this Geb, and Geb's not really taking a whole lot of damage. Looks like Void Pain doesn't really care a whole lot. Skinwalker wants to stun, get stunned themselves, and I think that's a high value couple of minutes there for Void Pain on the Geb.
Yeah, a lot of real close abilities. Bacchus doing his best to keep the pressure up, but they're just trying to make some space to try to get this shield buff. It looks like, however, Uller and Geb have other things in mind. Geb does roll through, and I don't know who's going to end up getting this. Both have pretty good contests. It looks like if Bacchus does ultimate, but unable to secure it. And now the Uller, and recognizing that Bacchus's heal is down, decides to jump in. But a lot of damage from both. Robin is here.
Everyone just wants to fight, including Lion Unicorn. Fantastic blocking there from Void
Oh,
Pain. Woo-hoo-hoo.
that was a huge
Mystic
one.
Rush goes flying. Yeah, maybe rush that Mystic Rush just a touch. And that will be that again on the left-hand side. Everyone playing with fire. Struggling a bit to really nail down this damage at the moment. But, I mean, from the
He
way this
stuck
game
around.
started, we are in for an action-packed game. And yeah, you're right. It's actually look to stick around on this purple buff. Steals away the green buff. Says, thank you very much. I'll take that one away. And that's a worthwhile bit of time. But really would have liked to get the kill instead. Now, Dirty Bubble pushing up all the way onto this right-hand side. A tower
He loses it.
not going to shoot the blue buff. So Dirty Bubble will get it. But hold on. Fighting back is Brown Brazilian up to this. Growing up is the Dirty Bubble. But Glubtubus shuts them right back down. Just complete action across the map.
Yeah, and the gold lead that we saw initially has pretty much evaporated. Right about 500 gold left in the lead. We are losing a little bit of the gold, bringing these buffs under tower. Kind of surprising, given that we did have the jungler there, and maybe a bit of poor communication showing on the side of Kappa Corp. Seeing that we've seen a bit of flubs on some of these plays from the side of Kappa Corp.
Flubs is a fantastic way to put it. It's maybe a little bit of lack of patience there, or like you said, possibly just a miscommunication. But miscommunication in picks and bans might have been Dirty Bubble getting this Vamana jungle. 0-3 at the moment, has just the Mannequin's Scepter and this Golden Blade online. Going into the short sword for a little bit of crit damage as well, but right now this pick is not really paying off.
And the thing is, this pick does not really get better. Good
Right.
CC chain, but yeah, he's out. So yeah, the problem with Vamana jungle, as opposed to Vamana solo, is if you spend all these items on damage, you are not tanky enough to stick around to do your damage. There is plenty of damage on the other side with Giannis, with, you know, even Hachiman, if he chooses to build into, he's probably going to go an Envenomed Executioner, which is also going to help reduce shielding, reduce healing. It's going to be very hard for him to stick around and get his damage off when, if there's a concerted effort on the other team to kill him. And that's what I would hope to see from the side of the Kappa Corp. If the Vamana goes in, we just kill him.
Yeah, right. That's always been the problem with Vamana. Now, sometimes he's strong enough to circumvent that, but other times not so much. Fantastic ult actually fits too. Super Spider Pig now down half HP, but Crooked Sticks in some danger because here comes Lion Unicorn stunned out of the leap. Now does get the leap, but everyone leaping in afterwards. It is Super Spider Pig instead who takes up the kill. Now it's up to Void Pain to try to escape. On the right-hand side, maybe a little bit of aggression as well coming out. Void Pain tries to get away. Oh, fantastic blink will block the roll rollout as well. So Geb surely about to die. Bracking in some danger. There will be the kill onto Void Pain. Under the tower goes 2 from Eternal Vanguard. The portal is not enough to save Glove Chillers, but now here comes a bit more damage. Dirty Bubble goes giant yet again into that Colossal Fury and starts slamming that pickaxe as much as they can. Really isn't doing the damage at the moment. Still doesn't have any crit online. Only the Golden Blade, and this Vamana is just not quite hitting yet.
Yeah, he's not, and it's interesting to see this fight. If your call was to that you were gonna do something to fight, like we saw the Geb ult the left side in dual lane, and the rest of his team is doing something on the right side, has no real tracking of the enemy jungler, just kind of shows a lot of sloppiness in communication when it comes to, what are we planning on doing? Are we planning on fighting in dual lane? Like, do we know? Are we planning on fighting in right side? It just seems like they're kind of playing it as an arena ranked brawl, kind of like, unga bunga, instead of instead of like anything more legitimate. Now 1v1 in the hunter.
That'll be Crooked Stick taking that 1v1 down. Oh, hold on, there's a Yana Slip coming. Oh, looks like that actually did get called out there by Void Pain. The portal off the mark as well. Glove Chillers trying to find the shot and shall connect with that unstable Vortex. Trading kills both teams there, and Glove Chillers can't just run away. Oh, trading blows in the solo lane as well. Yet another Mystic rush forward from Lion Unicorn. Might just have the damage here. It's going to be close. Not quite with the overhead kick. The healing from Chuck just too much. Meanwhile, Bracking has done absolutely nothing but shove minion waves under this mid lane tower, and that's netted themselves a tier 1 tower already.
And now with that pressure that they have, maybe it looks like they're going to collapse. It looks like Lion Unicorn did stick around. He's not able to get the kill.
Well then, if there is anything, yeah, anything to halt the momentum of a Raven, that's it right there. Pyromancer now being started up by Eternal Vanguard. Dirty Bubble claims another kill in this game, has that bladed boomerang online now, so will start to chase people down. And this game's really back and forth. It is now a 3,000 gold lead for Eternal Vanguard, despite them being down in kills, but they've just been picking up more towers.
So I don't understand why Robin initially thought that was a bad dive when he knows where the enemy team is. He doesn't dive the tier 1 tower in the initial gank, and then when he doesn't know where the enemy team is, he decides to dive. Yeah, now Dirty Bubble on his 4th death, but he has gotten a couple kills in the meantime. Does have that bladed boomerang done, like you mentioned, and now Geb, again, kind of by himself, but very tanky.
Yeah, this Geb doesn't care a whole lot about the Hachiman damage, because only has the Dev's Gauntlets and that Executioner online so far. Slight difference here from Crooked Stick as well. Has actually gone for the Transcendence and Hydra's Lament build. So this Uller expecting to just 1 or 2 shot people, going into that Fail Not next as well. So keep an eye on what Crooked Stick is able to do later on. But Bracking now finally feels like they want to get involved alongside Crooked Stick, forces away the Mystic Rush. Void Pain wants to give chase, but has absolutely nothing they can do about it. And I think that's where Eternal Vanguard might suffer. They have some good damage, but quite a big lack of initiation.
Also, on the flip side, I will note that we see this Bacchus kind of, again, not necessarily using their brain to think about what the enemy comp is, goes into the Prophetic, building a lot of magic defense for a Geb. Right? Like, there are great physical defense items that give you tons of utility. Things like Midgardian, right? Like, you could just build that. You could build, even if you wanted some magical defense, Mail of Renewal. You know that these guys are going to have tons of auto attackers, but instead of, like, utilizing, game knowledge or item knowledge, maybe just going into some, like, again, thoughtless build path that, doesn't really consider the state of the game, so interesting to see.
This so Skinwalker on the Bacchus will have to hit Geb, specifically Void Pain, 15 times to actually stack that. Not with basic attacks either. That's purely with abilities. Now, at least
No,
it is a
basics count.
frontliner. Basics count on certain guards. I don't know if they count on all guards. It's one of those complicated ones. Like Maui, it counts, but like Bacchus, I don't think it does. I don't
No,
really know.
protect any damage that you deal.
Prophetic's just any damage right now? Cool, that's
Yeah.
good to know. So any damage that needs to come out from Skinwalker onto Void Pain, but it's still, 15 is quite a lot. It doesn't sound like that much, but it's surprisingly difficult. However, if Void Pain wants to just keep walking
don't think that
themselves in
that's
like this.
I don't think that's the issue. Like he'll stack it, like he's gonna get the stacks, but it's like, what's the point? Again, like, why do you
True.
need that magical damage or defense? I mean, right? Like, you're not gonna like. It's one thing if they're like a 4 magical composition, because again, you have physical damage coming from towers and
Yeah.
jungle bosses, whatever that kind of stuff, right? But there's no magical damage on the side of. I mean, there's a Geb. Like, who cares?
I mean, apparently Skinwalker cares, but I don't know for the rest of the team. Well, it's hopefully the only magic defense item we do see coming out.
Right.
It looks like a bit more
Instead
of an
of
aggressive build.
that, he could have had a spectral armor at this point. You see the bladed boomerang from
Yeah.
the Vimana, you see the fail knot, like that would have done stuff. He could have had a mid guardian. He's really just not doing anything for his team with this build.
And Dirty Bubble there, not really doing anything with that ultimate either. Here comes Void Pain again, wants to get aggressive, but not really able to at the moment. We do actually see a full rotation over from the Scotia, from the solo lane, has just abandoned Brown Brazilian over there, and Eternal Vanguard are actually going to look to pull this Gold Fury. Now, currently, the only person within range is Skinwalker, but Bacchus is an absolute nightmare when it comes to an objective. There's a Through Space and Time coming out as well. There's the Unstable Vortex, though, and Kappa will steal away this objective. Now, they do trade out Skinwalker, but what about the fight afterwards? A nice ultimate there from Super Spider Pig gets them to safety, and teleporting behind is Brown Brazilian. Now, this Bologna is all on their own. Does take a reasonable amount of damage from this double ADC comp, tries to lock down Dirty Bubble and shall get them, so trading 1-for-1 while also taking the objective, but a fantastic knock up there takes down the Giannis from Bracking, and the Scotia has the damage to take down Super Spider Pig. Brown Brazilian, no ultimate to work with, trades their life out finally, and this tier 2 in pressure as well. It's just complete chaos, trading back and forth. I'm not even sure who comes out on top.
I would say, given that they got 4 kills, Kappa Corp, the ones who are alive, Eternal Vanguard, the Chaos side, they come out on top. So it looked to me that Giannis like actively teleported into 3 people and just died. They were winning that fight. They stole the objective. Yeah. They were winning that fight. The Vimana had no mana, and Vimana no mana, that's like a traditional, common theme that we see, no matter what role that character is in, he just uses a lot of mana. But we get the kill on him, and then why are we staying and fighting? Like,
yeah,
the thing that hunters do best is they stay and do consistent DPS. Yes, that's great. It's not secure, which is what means that Eternal Vanguard Kappa Corp get to secure that that Gold Fury, but hunters still do good consistent DPS, especially when you have these ability-based hunters with things like Jotun's done. A lot of cooldown in their builds. They're gonna have a lot of consistent DPS and area control, and it looks like instead of just getting the objective and having discipline to leave, like, I'm fine with getting the kill on the Vimana, that was free, but then afterwards, why are you teleporting into like 4 people?
Yeah, it was the overextension after the fact, right? I think Brown Brazilian teleporting over is not such a big deal, but Crooked Stick has been caught with no mana at all and has the entirety of the enemy team at their doorstep. But Dirty Bubble does take down Skinwalker in response, and of course, everyone just wants to brawl it out a little bit here. This Vimana in danger does go up into the Colossal Fury, but hello, melted to the ground and can do no more with it. Now, Bracking has shown back up, but Brown Brazilian goes goes in and wants to start this fight for Kappa Corp. Super Spider Pig has been frontlining and takes a ton of damage as punishment for it. Now this Bologna still wants to fight, but the damage from the bees is very, very high. Scotia wants to give chase, but cannot lock it down. Mystic Rush in from Lion Unicorn, but has to walk right back out, complete and utter disregard for anyone's safety. It's 2-for-1 in favor of Kappa Corp.
Yeah, I mean, sloppy play on both teams. I mean, that's kind of been the theme from this game. I would say it's just like a lot of just sloppiness, not really considering what other teams can do, where other teams can be. I'm curious if we can show wards placed because I see on the map there's like only a couple wards down, and we see that like the support and their jungler only has 2 wards placed. The other jungler 0 wards placed. This is like I don't know, bronze level like warding, maybe even casual, whatever. Like it's
wow.
So we do see a lot of big AoE circles, like we said, on the side of Eternal Vanguard being used. A lot of low health
Who
bar.
needs wards? You just know where the enemy's going to be. It's where the fight is. And currently, the fight is all around this beacon. Now, the health bars for Eternal Vanguard are surely too low for them to continue this. But the Scotia once in, there is Dirty Bubble, goes up into the Colossal Fury. But, oh, God, squished down by that Mystic Rush coming out. Axe flies high, but does not connect with Brown Brazilian. Scotia goes yet again back in, but Glubchillers shall take down Void Pain. No support now for Eternal Vanguard, and they are down 2 members, and Brown Brazilian back with full HP. But here comes Crooked Stick to save the day for the Chaos side. Shoots off their abilities and decides, you know what, guys, I don't want to do that. I'm going to try to back away. Teleporting back in, holds the point, but not for long enough. The Stygian Beacon does go the way of Kappa Corp, and these teams just love to fight whenever possible.
Yeah, these teams are just kind of really like going in, and I think I mentioned briefly like one of the things that Vamana can do is you can build tanky in the jungle, and you don't get as much clear and farm as you do in solo lane, but if you're still a tanky Vamana, you are still a threat. Dirty Bubble has not built tanky at all. He is full damage and is more glass than cannon. He's right. He's not really doing much damage. He's gotten some kills, but they're really being given his way by his teammates. And so I just struggle to see what the thought of this pick doing better than any other auto attacker that you can choose in this position would do, because it's the traditional like benefit of Vamana is that he can do damage while being tanky, but you're not tanky.
Yeah, I was kind of considering doing picks and bans. We saw this Vamana had already been locked in, but then Eternal Vanguard went and locked the Chak. And what I really would have loved to see is maybe something like an Aokwang, or even specifically an Aokwang, but even Mama Brigitte. There's lots of gods that were available that also bring this magic damage and do a very similar job to Vamana, but instead, Eternal Vanguard are just going to extend this gold lead by dragging every single objective, and Kappa Corp not quite ready on the trigger there. Maybe we're a bit concerned about a fire giant push coming out instead, so they all find themselves grouped up on that side of the map. But now Void Pain gets the blink onto Glubchillus, gets a good Aegis and beads used instead from the Yanas. There's a lot of trading back and forth. There comes the through space diamond. Here comes Dirty Bubble. Finally finds an opportunity to dish out some damage and sends everyone back to base. Now Skinwalker gets a portal, tries to get back to safety. Dirty Bubble continues smashing, but does not grab anything for it. However, the entirety of Kappa Corp have been sent back to base, and that is the go button for Eternal Vanguard to look at this fire giant.
And that's the thing, we talked about the space creation from this composition, and that's exactly what we see. We force every single thing from the Giannis, relics, ultimate. We force so much in the peel that now this Giannis is a sitting duck. He will die. If he I don't know if he gets this. Yeah, no, he doesn't. He just died.
Tried his best, it certainly did not. No, Lion Unicorn's got to get out there. Kappa Corp have actually showed up to try to defend this Fire Giant, but it is already gone. So now they need to make sure they disengage. Another fantastic ult from Void Pain puts Brown Brazilian in a ton of danger, but just about gets the Eagles rally over the wall. So instead, the attention turns onto Skinwalker, who cannot survive all of the auto attacks from Bracking and Crooked Stick. And Super Spider Pig in some danger. Here comes Dirty Bubble, smashing him down, and the Scotia picks up that kill. But there are 3 members dead for Kappa Corp. Eternal Vanguard want to at least push in to this Phoenix. Might even look for the end if given the opportunity. Double ADC, like you mentioned, will shred down all of these structures. It's just about gonna go. Do Kappa Corp step up for any more? No, Eternal Vanguard shall turn their attention to the left lane, but Kappa Corp in big danger now.
Yeah, that left side Phoenix also probably pretty free. They have a minion wave coming in. Giannis does flip Dirty Bubble.
Well, trading themselves out is Lion Unicorn there. El Dirty Bubble with 7 deaths. No, let's make that 8 deaths. And Glubchubbers also just gets blown up. This double ADC comp really working now. Skinwalker goes in to try to save the Phoenix, but is just too late. Cannot do any more to this composition. Eternal Vanguard leave with plenty of gold in their pockets and 2 Phoenixes down.
I want to highlight this Geb has been playing phenomenally. He, his shielding has been pretty on the point, and the initiation, his blink ultimates onto someone where, again, Glubtibus is not playing like a player who knows his beads and ult, or beads and Aegis and ult and all that stuff are down. He's kind of ignoring the lack of his resources and just boonga boongaing without really thinking about it. He did that at Fire Giant, he died for it. He did that at Phoenix, he died for it. And so you would think that maybe he would learn after the Fire Giant, but he's kind of like turning off that like self-preservation part of his brain, and it's his team is suffering for it.
Yeah, it was an interesting attempt to go for the Fire Giant steal, right? You know, if you're sending a player in like Kappa Corp did, you know, you send your Giannis, you get into the pit, that's all well and good. It wasn't able to steal. It almost doesn't have to steal. The fact that you made that call to go for it is totally fine, right? That's an acceptable play when you're down quite a bit. But then they've all decided to stick around and been rightly punished for it. And now Lion Unicorn just walking into the pit. Not really sure what you were hoping to find, but you've instead found the entirety of Eternal Vanguard. Blinking in is Dirty Bubble, does get the knockup, and now this Raven has absolutely nowhere to go. Finally, the crits come through for the Vamana, and now whatever Kappa Corp decide to do for the next 50 seconds, they'll have to do in a 4v5.
Yeah, a lot of missed abilities by Lion Unicorn. He definitely could have lived that, but he misses his 2, gets knocked up anyway, misses the root. And once all that is down, you're kind of a sitting duck. He's already had used his ultimate for the initial disengage. Obviously, you do want to still try to, finish up. He does have almost full build. Looks like he does just waiting on maybe like a Heartseeker or something like that to finish his build. Trying to get that last bit, but without him, it's very hard to defend.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to have time for the rest of that build. Here comes Crooked Stick all the way on the back line, but Super Spider Pig gets chased down by Dirty Bubble. Now in big danger. Crooked Stick actually tanking the Titan there. He needs to be careful because that health bar does not have much left to work with. Now all 3 Phoenixes are down on the side of Kappa Corp, but Eternal Vanguard looking instead like they want to retreat, maybe looking to engage onto Dirty Bubble. Kappa Corp instead gets the stun, does Skinwalker, but there is no follow-up to work with. A 3-person intoxicate doesn't really matter. The body blocks from Void Pain just crushing the health bar of Skinwalker. Now, the base is wide open. It's for anyone to make an opportunity. An Eagles rally in from Brown Brazilian. Do they have the damage, though, to Eternal Vanguard to follow it up? It looks like they're really starting to bleed away with no Fire Giant to work with. Guys, just get out. You can take this fight later, I promise you. Just relax for like 5 seconds, please. Void Pain in some danger. Kappa Corp still want to chase. The Scotia just blinks on in, and instead it was actually decide, oh, you know what, that was wrong. I should listen to Judas. I'm going to go walk back out of this base again. And now, looks like instead,
Are you
my Void Pain just blinking in instead. And Crooked Stick will get the kill for that. But there's Glubtibus taking down the Ula. It looks like Eternal Vanguard have absolutely overstayed their welcome. My God!
Yeah, that was. I mean, I will say like, so there's one thing where it's like, kind of conveyor belting your front line or like rotating your front line, right? Making
Yeah.
sure that your because your one tank takes damage, they go in, they take damage, and then they come out, and your next tank goes in, they take damage, then they come out. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that Eternal Vanguard did a very good job doing that, and has throughout the game done a relatively good job of doing that. Especially Scotia and Void Pain, where we see these like, okay, Geb blinks in, gets some, relics, or Chalk blinks in, gets some resources, and then the other one does it, right? Like that chaining, where there's not a ton of resources for the side of Kappa Corp. They have a lot of people without CC immunity. Bacchus can't really peel that great. When he's being engaged on, Bacchus wants to be the one doing the engaging, but he's not in a position to do so. EFG down onto the side of Eternal Vanguard. Unfortunate that Uller does not have it, but Bracking is going to do plenty of damage with it anyway. 3-0 and 11, full build. He is slapping.
Yep, he's been hitting very hard now as these double ADC comp, and they're going to hit even harder onto two Phoenixes that do not have full health bars to work with. Now, instead, looks like Dirty Bubble just going to go for this one in mid lane. Oh, fantastic disarm. The left side Phoenix has already gone down. Dirty Bubble will get that mid Phoenix anyway. Can they punish this Vamana for what they've done, though? Doesn't look like Kappa Corp can succeed. They do give chase. They do secure it. Now, can they get back in time to defend their base? Now, 4 versus 5. Eternal Vanguard have enhanced Fire Giant on 3. Scotia goes in, gets a fantastic ult under Super Spider Pig, who has to use the Aegis, has to ult back to base as well, and Bracking now dishing out the damage. This Titan in big danger now, really under threat. Here are 2 swarms of minion waves in, and that shall be that. The Eternal Vanguard take a big victory in this first game, and they end up going in 1-0.
Yeah, the amount of space created was phenomenal, and just the W key and the like I mentioned, the frontline rotation. They weren't able. I mean, early on they were able to deal with the Vamana, and Vamana wasn't really impactful. But I have to commend the Geb and the Chalk. They made so much space. They allowed their backline to basically be able to free cast, and there was really that dive mentality that the other side had. They kind of lost that pretty early on, where
Yeah.
they're kind of going in haphazardly, not really communicating the dive, not focusing what they want to do. And a lot of that might have to do with the vision, the lack of vision. We'll see one thing I'm curious to see, wards placed, not not the greatest,
Dirty Bubble
especially
placed
from the
one.
jungle. Yeah, he did place one. He placed one. All right. One thing I always like to say is like you should never in a game have more deaths than words placed. Like having that is like the biggest like unforgivable ratio in my mind. Um because really every time you die, you can buy 2 wards. There's no reason to have more deaths than wards placed. And we see a few players with that. Bubble was basically carried by the rest of his front line, and the back line just was able to do their job. They casted. Bracking did his job. 34k damage.
Yeah, just constantly. It felt like the AMC was never really threatened. I can't think of a situation where, aside from maybe that one fight around the beacon, there really weren't many opportunities for for Kappa Cup there to actually get onto the enemy backline. And as much as I call it an opportunity, it was of their own doing. You know, they never really created that opportunity, and the onus was very much on them. Because if you let a double ADC comp get to late game, it is pretty much always going to do exactly what it did just then. But let's see if the Kappa Corp can make any adjustments to turn it around for game number 2. We'll be checking that out right after this break. And we are back, everybody, with this Shallows Division game between Eternal Vanguard and Kappa Corp. It was a scrappy game, which Eternal Vanguard came out 1-0 from. And, of course, I'm Judas Priestley, joined by Sam Cobra. And Sam Cobra, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, we've had plenty to talk about that game while we've been off the air. So how about we bring it into the air as well? What do you have to say about how that last game just went down?
I was a massive frontline gap. We saw amazing space creation by the Chalk, by the Geb. And meanwhile, on the other side, we have the Bacchus building prophetic cloak and into a four physical comp, not really thinking about what he's playing against, not really thinking about he's diving in against three people on the right hand side. Again, like without his backline anywhere nearby. Just a massive frontline diff. Big game plays by the Chalk and the Geb made so much room for their team to work, and the work they did, they really put the work on. Um, I forget which team ended up winning, but like the losing side. So,
Just dishing out the reminder, it was Eternal Vanguard who beat the Kappa Corporation 1-0. And we'll see how the Kappa Corporation can turn that around as we head on into picks and bans for this second game. Now, it's worth pointing out that in the initial ban phase, it was very, very standard bans across the board. You know, we had Baki, Kujira, Toth, and Thanatos for Kappa Corporation, whereas Eternal Vanguard came out with the Thor, Kukulkan, and Sobek. And all of that is so standard. And yet Eternal Vanguard brought the spice is the only way I could
that's
say
right.
it. They just picked whatever they wanted. Top picked the Vamana and a Geb. Now the Vamana did end up, I believe, top kills on their team. Let's not talk about the damage just yet, but it was top kills, and the Geb was absolutely phenomenal. So we discussed between the games how difficult it would be to ban out. We do see Kappa Corporation take their top ban towards Armuz and Carb. Is this how you think they should approach this?
There are a lot. So the weird thing is that game style has a lot of versatility. I wouldn't say that there was any single god or even like a couple gods that Eternal Vanguard's strategy revolved around or needed, right? You can slot in, Marty or, a lot of other like ADCs, even magical ADCs, whatever you want, into that position, and they will still do similar things. We do see the bans from Eternal Vanguard basically the same as game one, but we do see AMC and Bologna both taken out. Interesting that the Bologna, which they chose first themselves, is now banned out.
Yes.
Again, showing that their soul laner maybe just is not that comfortable. We ban out, even though we're first pick, a couple very strong soul lane picks, showing that we're just not able to perform on them.
Yeah, if you're not really feeling the Bologna from that last game, and you definitely, clearly, do not want to come up against or play as the Bake Kujira, just gonna have to lock those away. Whereas, like you said, Eternal Vanguard going for the exact same bans that they went for in game number one, and you can kind of understand why. It almost doesn't need fixing. We saw the Hachiman was actually taken by Kappa Corporation. That is probably one of the highest priority picks at the moment, and wasn't really impressive. It didn't do poorly, but falling down early on, that's a big problem for a Hachiman. It's not something that's supposed to happen. And then once you got to the late game, we really did not see it have much of an impact. But we'll see if the Kappa Corporation can make it work better in this second game. They have actually top picked that Hachiman this time, but instead the Eternal Vanguard go for the Anhurst straight back into it. And once again, what a roll back that Geb.
Yeah, prefer the Sonher over the Vamana top pick. The Vamana didn't really do that much from the top pick spot, but on her, a great hunter at this point. Again, can fill any role. He can go in the mid lane. He can go. Obviously, has a lot of pressure in whatever lane he's in. Does a lot of great things. Actually, improves their secure compared to what they had in game one with the AMC and the Uller. I mean, Uller 2-1 or 3-1 combo is also pretty good secure. Um, but it's interesting to see. I think this Geb we've seen very highly prioritized, making sure that any kind of dive faces a big earthy stone shield and makes it a lot more difficult to dive this backline. Instead of that plan, it looks like we are seeing a little bit of a mix up. We see an Agni and a Thanatos from the side of Kappa Corporation. Thana really good against tanky frontliners because you don't have to get them to 100%. You just have to get them down to threshold, and then you can go up and execute them, right? That makes dealing with these
Absolutely.
frontliners way more easy. The Geb shield does nothing against execute, right? So um, and the Osiris, the one that you had wanted to see in game one, now
Yes.
coming in game.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it's hard to say because the Vamana did, of course, end up going jungle, and I probably wouldn't have liked an Osiris in the jungle. I think Osiris is just a strong pick right now, and with Bellona off the table, it's probably the strongest pick, especially given that Baki Kujira is, of course, off the table as well. So happy to see this Osiris come in. I think it will blend a lot to the way that Eternal Vanguard wanted to play. But yeah, looking at the way the Kappa Corporation have drafted, they have now picked up the Thanatos, which they banned in game number one, and that might be the sort of activity they need to come through. You know, allows you to get some early pressure in multiple side lanes, and of course, like you said, that hovering death can shut down any excessive frontliners because, like you said, don't have to get them to 100%. You can just execute them before they get that low. And I think that Agni pairing with that is actually a phenomenal choice here. You know, it's not like the Toth, which has been banned away, which is very often using the final judgment to actually kill a target. Instead, you can just rain fire over some walls, get some CC coming out
Oh
with
no,
those noxious fumes, and it lends itself very, very well to combining with this Thanatos. And Vamana is being hovered because Raptor is trolling us in the background. I see you, Raptor. I'm not falling for this whatsoever. Raptor's trying to argue his case back to me. I refuse to believe it. This will not. Yeah, likely story, Raptor. He's telling
okay.
me they switched. I believe none of it. I'm not falling for it. It is Chuck being highlighted by the Eternal Vanguard now. Right now, Raptor's really trolling me. He's actually committed to it. Either way, whatever ends up coming through, I'd be surprised to see another warrior come out from the
Here we
jungle. And
go.
in fact, yeah, it will be a Daji. This one makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, I will say one thing. It's smart for them to pick up the Osiris in this third pick spot because I think that at least if I was to put myself in the shoes of Eternal Vanguard and their draft pick strategy, it seemed that they wanted to take away the Vamana from Kappa Corporation. A little weird because they had already locked Bologna, so they kind of showed that they didn't prioritize the Vamana. I'm not exactly sure, but like wanting them because Vamana would have been a decent pickup still for Kappa Corporation after the second round bans. Noting that they didn't ban it, but Osiris actually deals with Vamana very well because you just put your judgment tether on him, and if he's in big baby form, if he's trying to do all the things, he's doing so much less damage. And yes, you're not gonna to necessarily stun him, but just the mitigations if you are around. And Geb Shield also, that's another thing. Vamana has to chew through the Geb Shield. So all of those things being said, it makes it a worse game to pick Vamana into. And we do see the Achilles going for the double execute strategy. Makes
Yeah.
it, much more difficult for frontliners to play the game. Charon, great disruption. Um, we were trying to lock down this last pick, and Raptors having a tough time with these different potential picks for Eternal Vanguard. Of course, shout outs to our observer Raptor as he's doing his best.
doing all the work that they possibly can, and it will be a Chiron likely for the mid lane. It seems like Eternal Vanguard do not want to deviate from that hunter in the mid lane with this ability based build. So going for a Chiron, which we do not see very, very often. One of those gods that is either ridiculously OP or is just completely irrelevant. Very rarely has a sort of sweet spot where they find themselves being picked up. But looking at the Kappa Corporation draft, you mentioned going for that double execute comp, and I think it goes fantastically well here. Hachiman and Agni, two gods that are very well known for their poke. You combine that with Charon, who, guess what Charon likes to do, guys? Run people down and poke them. That's pretty much the only thing that this guy does, but he does it fantastically well. So having the option of not just one execute, because sometimes you want to initiate with that hovering death, you also have the fatal strike coming out from Achilles as well. So the Eternal Vanguard have to be so careful with their health bars, especially without having a healer in the composition.
I mean, they have Chiron. I think it's a little bit of a healer.
That's like 50 health.
Okay, so one thing, however, so this front line is going to have a lot more difficult time given that they have these double executes. However, I would say that this back line is from Eternal Vanguard is scarier than they were in game one. Daji does pretty well into Agni. Is going to face a lot of CC immunity from the rest of the squad, and it's really Geb to burn beads. There's really not much else. Maybe Osiris gets a beads or two with his judgment tether. Maybe Geb, so it's really Geb to like burn beads. Maybe on her get something with his impale. But for the most part, it's going to be a lot harder for this front line to play with this draft than they did against the Kappa Corporation in game one. However, I think that the backline is going to have a pretty good time regardless. One thing that I like that Kappa Corp did was move towards a bit more of that like area space kind of thing. Agni, great at that, throwing out his bombs, using his, flame stun. Um, and then Charon actually pretty good at area denial as well. The thing with Charon is he's really good into gods that want to constantly channel stuff. There's not a lot of
Yes.
that here. Daji has, her thousand cuts, but other than that, I mean, Charon's just there, like you said, to poke and try to get them down into the threshold where these executes can really come into play. And he's good at that. He's great at that. But we'll see if that strategy works out as we're getting ready to go into the.
Yep, heading on over to game number 2 between Eternal Vanguard and Kappa Corporation. And like you've said, this Dachi is going to certainly struggle when it comes to the majority of the composition out of Kappa Corp. So I'd like to see Dirty Bubble just full on focus Glubtibus on this Agni, right? If the Daji is going to commit to do anything this game, it should surely be onto this Agni. I think if Agni is doing anything, if they're clearing a wave, if they need to go sneeze, there should be a Daji lurking over their shoulder, and you need to make sure that this god isn't able to do what they need to do, because Glubtubus in game number 1 actually had a pretty decent game on the Giannis. Now, like you said, did end up falling quite a few times due to lack of awareness around their relic timings and everything. So for Eternal Vanguard, if you can force that situation again, keep these beads down, keep this Aegis down from this Agni, then there will be an opportunity there for you. You just need to make sure you are consistently applying the pressure.
And it is interesting. I mean, Glubtibus in game one had a bit of a tendency to use his movement abilities a little haphazardly. And Agni can get really punished if he is using his dash in any kind of way. I mean, realistically, in any kind of way. If he's using it to clear, if he's just like using it to move around.
Uh-oh.
It's now Charon getting
Oh!
Misses
Skinwalker doesn't connect with the Impale, and instead, Crooked Stick forced to leap away with big damage done to them. Super Spider Pig relatively healthy into this angle, so a drop kill there on the left-hand side, a certain opportunity for Burst Blood there.
Yeah, unfortunate. Maybe a little bit of lag or something, help preventing that impale. Because usually with the jump, you can guarantee the impale because they're knocked up, and so he hit the jump. One thing I do want to mention is that again, with something like a Dodgy in the jungle, it is even more important to make sure that you are having good ward coverage. I think in game one, Skinwalker placed like 2 or 3 wards like all game. Kind of criminal from a support as he is falling down for first blood to the Dodgy. Again, going a couple multi-pots, choosing not to have vision, thinking that, oh yeah, Dodgy's not scary until she's level 5. Well, Rebel doesn't feel that way. Bubble feels like she's scary enough now.
Oh, Bracken uses the dash there onto Glubtopus just to get that scepter down.
Bracken might be in trouble.
That tents in. Lion Unicorn. Oh, Dirty Bubble shows up, but Glubtopus does have the Path of Flames available, so will dash away to safety there. And yeah, Skinwalker does eventually fall down for first blood on this left-hand side. Not too crooked stick on this hand here,
Can
but
you
yeah, onto
show
Dirty
us?
Bubble.
Can you show us Thanatos' leveling order? It looked like he only had 1 point in his scythe there. Yeah, so I think if he had a level 2 scythe there, at level 3, he probably would have been able to kill that Chiron. But choosing to invest in his 2, I guess to move across the map a little faster, means that I think that that's also a bit of a dropped kill. That scythe does so much damage and scales very
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah, the Death Scythe, of course, probably one of the hardest hitting single hit abilities in the game. So, yeah, big
Purple.
damage potential there. Now, Purple Buff Invade coming out from Eternal Vanguard. They've already got the smalls. Will they get the big one? And yes, Crooked Stick will get that. Nice double root combination there, though, into the Heavenly Banner. Super Spider Pig dishing out the damage, but both members of the Eternal Vanguard dual lane juggling the aggro between them, get away safely, get away with a little bit of robbery.
Yeah, that was a very clean purple buff invade, I would say. Like, recognizing that, again, this Charon really having fallen for first blood, not in a position to be able to contest, maybe not tracking them. That's one of the things that you usually expect your roamers, like your support, to do is track the enemy. And Skinwalker not really doing that much tracking, comes in, recognizes that, but unfortunately not able to secure nor able to punish that purple weapon. Then in the air,
Fantastic ult from Lion. Look at that. Lion Unicorn, sorry. Just times that to perfection. It wasn't enough damage from Glubtopus to get the Chiron into execute range, but more than enough damage overall to just set that one up perfectly. And yeah, that is exactly how you want your Thanatos to be playing at this stage of the game. So it's been now 1 kill towards either side. Slight lead in the gold charts for Kappa Corp, actually, despite that purple buff invade. But is this how you would have expected this game to go this time? Would you say that it should be Kappa Corp taking the lead early on, or would you leave that to Eternal Vanguard?
I mean, it's kind of a little too early. We do see 1-to-1, both junglers making their impacts. Thanatos, of course, getting that kill. I would say that anytime you have a double ADC comp, you kind of have a bit of a bimodal curve. You tend to have a strong early game. Oh, okay, he gets the kill. And finishes off the wave with the last few spears. That's nice. That's nice. And the minions there to get him out. That's super.
Almost like they planned that one.
Yeah, that's nicely played by Crooked Stick. Yeah, what I was saying is I think double hunter comps tend to have a bit of a bimodal curve, where their early game is pretty strong, given that they have auto attacks, especially against something like an Agni who doesn't necessarily have the greatest early game. And their late game is very, very strong. But the mid game is usually where the other team tends to be able to catch up, and if they're at least like even in levels, tends to be able to fight a little bit more extensively. Again, another ult, another kill by Unicorn, 3-man dive onto the solo lane by
Yeah, Skinwalker shall claim that kill as well. Very happy as the sport to pick that one up. Especially happy on a Charon, actually, because Charon, one of those gods from support that can actually dish out quite a significant amount of damage. And there's Glubtopus forced to wait for the bluestone ticks before being able to return to base. This Agni Not having the best of time in the mid lane, but a success in the right-hand lane for the Kappa Corp does set them equal in kills yet again. It has really been a hotly contested early game, but Dirty Bubble now doing a great job of getting some invades down. Scotia here on this right-hand side, not happy with how that dive went, especially because they just killed off their blue buff, so now this Osiris going to be stuck without that extra sustain coming through. But I do wonder, is either side looking to pull these objectives earlier on, or are we just expecting to see a lot more scrapping like we've seen so far?
I think it just depends on if they can get a good map position. If they can get a kill, for example, solo kill or something like that, that gets them in a position where they can pull a gold. Um, Generally, until you have like your second item completed as an ADC, you're not really that great at burning your objectives. So we wouldn't expect to see this early of an objective until maybe that second item completed. Whether it be something like Executioner, which is really good at burning objectives, or whatever they decide to go into. Now, two people here to contest the prop buff, and looks like on her, knowing that his Geb is coming in, decides to go in, forces ult from both the team.
It was a great ult there from Crooked Stick to actually immune out the summoned sticks coming out from Skinwalker. So excellent heads up play there, but Skinwalker still wants to try to steal this. Of course, does have Damnation over the top, but does not manage to get it. Instead, maybe more action in this mid lane there. The beads coming out from Glubtopus. Dirty Bubble doesn't even need the ultimate. Will instead just slice them down. And now Lion Unicorn wants to try to clean up, but there is no opportunity. However, the Scotia has stepped up over here, but Void Pain, heads up play from them, has teleported over to this dual lane because they know that's where the action is going to be. Now Dirty Bubble, once in on this Thanatos, sends them to the sky and sends them with their bags packed all the way home to the red buff. It just seems at the moment like Eternal Vanguard are coming ahead on the pressure.
Yeah, it's pretty even back and forth at this point. Eternal Vanguard a little bit in the having benefited from those early kills, and now they are looking for this Gold Fury. Looks like we do not really have any power spikes per se from these ADCs, but as long as you have space, if the rest of the team's not there, you still are going to do damage. And so good call from the side of Eternal Vanguard, getting another free objective, this time a Gold Fury.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times now from Eternal Vanguard. They look at when they have this opportunity for these objectives. They've got some decent ward coverage now, as you can see both on the left and right-hand side. So, yeah, heads up play yet again. They're really waiting for these opportunities because, like you said, they don't have a lot in the way of secure. You know, it's probably still Chiron, the best secure on the map. So it's not the most reliable damage output there, but when you have the space, like you said, you can just take that one down. And yeah, forced on away now is Super Spider Pig under the tower. This Hatchman certainly not had an easy start of it over here.
Yeah, and this is the second game he's been facing a very similar similar story. And Pachimon has never really been one of those characters that you pick because you want to win that like laning phase. He does fine. Looks like Dachi going in against several people, but she does have the Chiron.
Unfortunate there for Glubtopus. Clearly tried to get active. Oh, fantastically timed ult there from Skinwalker, and that will seal the fate of Dirty Bubble. I don't know if Skinwalker just got like the luckiest shot in existence or just perfectly timed out that power. What a great play from the Charon, and that's exactly what you need because this Agni being under pressure, so trading out equally is about the best you can hope for right now.
Yeah, so I think in that fight, there it seemed to be the recognition that Agni used his dash to get away from mid, right? And once, like we said, Agni uses his dash, he is very susceptible. This Charon has no mana. He's going to take a ton of poke, maybe even more than poke, as Skinwalker does fall. Again, not being at all respectful of the enemy. Like, you're sticking around with no mana for what? Like, I guess trying to hold the wave for his mid laner, ends up falling for it. Great recognition and capitalization by the side of Eternal Vanguard on that. But what I was gonna say, Dirty Bubble after so great recognition that the Agni had used his dash, but once he goes up into the powwow, he stays in it for a long time without really any reason to. It seems like his team wants to disengage at that point, and instead of doing that, he stays on it for a little too long, allows the rest of Kappa Corp to get in position to punish him, rather than just going up and using it for the mobility to get out of there. I think that if he chose to cancel it early and jump away, he actually probably would have survived that encounter.
Well, going up into
Now
the
going up the
parallel
other.
yet again. Lion Unicorn forced to take it to the sky yet again. Clearly sticking around though. Wants to see where they land and does land down right on top of their head. No scythe just yet, but there will be the scythe and that will finish off this Daji. Dirty Bubble now falling twice in quick succession. Not the situation you want to find yourself in now. The brawl over the beacon in the mid lane continues on. Brown Brazilian in a little bit of danger, but leaping over the wall is the Scotia. Trying to take down the enemy Agni sends them packing back under the tier 1 tower, but still, this beacon being hotly contested. Lion Unicorn is lurking around. The Scotia's doing a great job of frontlining, but can't do any more. Void Pain has rolled around. Might find themselves in some danger. Is in execute range, but off the mark with that fatal strike. It does not matter. Glubtibus will take down the return kill instead now. Bracking wants to dash in. Giddy ups forward because the beacon is still there for the taking. Off the mark with the scythe, but it doesn't matter yet again. Brown Brazilian sweeping up all of these kills. What a high value rotation for this Achilles. Now Crooked Stick still wants to brawl because they recognize that their health bars are low on the enemy side. Goes into the Desert Fury and takes down the enemy Agni, but now has no gas left in the tank, has to back away and shall concede the beacon to Kappa Corp.
That's important though for him to get that kill because he did rotate late. Um, both the hunters give up waves, give up farm for that rotation, but because they got a couple kills in mid, the Hachiman gets to benefit from that in his, getting the assists, etc. That on her would have potentially given up a little bit of that lead he had he not gotten that kill. However, getting that means that he maintains that 2-level lead over the Hachiman, and doesn't lose as much from that rotation as he otherwise would have.
Yeah, it was a tough call to make. You find yourselves in that situation quite a lot when you play ADC, is that when the beacon comes up, oftentimes the ADC rotating to it can make all the difference, as we saw there. The consistent damage, like we mentioned in game 1, it does really turn things around when it comes to the beacon because you have that designated point of contention. There's a wave on its way. It's coming through slowly. It's going to connect with the Scotia. So that, a bit of style points across the map there from Skinwalker, but not a lot more than that at the moment, as everyone just wants to just continue fighting. I mentioned this last week, but through this season, I have pretty much exclusively cast EU games, and NA games, man, they are just entirely different. Everyone just wants to fight at all times.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. But it's like you see no vision from either team on the right side of the map. Agni forced to use his relics. Looks like he is okay. So they are diving him. He is gonna fall down. Again, once you've used that dash as Agni, if your team is not there, which a large part of it has to do with the fact that there's not real good vision. They're too busy fighting to ward. They're not playing around the map. Now we do see this Charon. He does have no ultimate, so he's gonna get pulled. He's got his dash. Not enough damage. He is pretty tanky at this point, but now Crooked Stick gets solo. Oh no, not solo. The Thanatos had rotated over, so Crooked Stick shut down.
Yeah, it's a big kill for them to get over the dual lane. It's always more important when it goes the way of your ADC as well. It's very handy to have that in the back pocket, get that extra chunk of gold, and it's started to cut that ADC differential just a little bit, and that's like I said, exactly what the Kappa Corp needed, because they need some way back into this game, because it's just been spilling a little bit out of their control. Eternal Vanguard pick up yet another objective on the map. That is a Pyromancer now going their way, and it all just seems to be eventually in their favor. And like you mentioned previously, they have the double ADC comp. They have an eventual late game. It is absolutely inevitable that at some point this
He's
double hunter
hunting.
will be
Lion
very strong.
Unicorn
But
hunt.
Lion Unicorn spots out Dirty Bubble. Can they find the side? Yes, they
Oh,
can. And they shall scythe them down afterwards as well. Bracking could do absolutely nothing to stop that. I know it almost gets the scythe there,
Aegis
just
down.
off the mark. But there's an Aegis down as well. Does use that training exercise for a bit of CC immunity. Is instead Brown Brazilian now to put the pressure onto the Scotia. Skinwalker here. Bracking still lurking. Lion Unicorn, though, has had a great time over here. And why? Stop the hunting ground. Down goes the Scotia to another execute from Brown Brazilian. Every fight now in this right side jungle going the way of Kappa.
Yeah, and these divers. Oh, dash caught.
Oh my
Dash caught
goodness.
again. Too bad for Glubtivus. Looks like he does have the rest of his team though to bail himself out. And now potentially a little bit of a turnaround, but the beacon's gonna come up in about 30 seconds, and the teams are in position.
It's very, very close here. Again, both sides scrapping it out, but the beacon on its way, like you'd mentioned, should be currently with the advantage of Kappa. But instead, looks like Kappa turning their attention to this Oni Fury. Now, Eternal Vanguard are absolutely more than aware of this, but they don't have fantastic steal potential. Kappa could 50-50 this, but it would be an outright 50-50, and instead, Brazilian sticking around, but clearly wants to return to base. Now, backing away, our Kappa Corp, right as the beacon spawns. Eternal Vanguard are trying to hunt for a fight, though.
Yeah, and now after all of them back at the same time, it looks like Eternal Vanguard is all there, and they're picking up the Gold Fury themselves. And again, they're the ones with the double hunter comp. They're the ones with a bit more shred. Now Scotia is making a good amount of space, and so is the Dodgy Dirty Bubble. Now they're looking for the disengage. Dodgy's close enough to her team that she can teleport out if needed, but now maybe even more fight. Big wave coming across, does hit 3 people. And Brown Brazilian forced the ult.
Yeah, the fatal strike down. That's been where a lot of the success of the Kappa Corp team fight has come from. Looks like Crooked Stick absolutely upset with the fact that that fight is over. They wanted more, but will not get it. It will just be an Oni Fury. But again, an objective just goes the way of Eternal Vanguard. Now the beacon to follow as well. They're getting a lot of space and a lot of freedom for this. Is that something that Eternal Vanguard are creating for themselves, or are Kappa Corp just kind of letting it happen?
No, they're creating it for themselves. The spacing is very good. Again, part of it, Kappa Corp, for example, having 3, I think it was 3 people, if not 4 people back at the same time, giving up Gold Fury, like knowing that the enemy team is around, and yet having like 3 or 4 people back at once, like that's asking for it, right? Like that's just really, I don't know if they just thought that the other team wouldn't pull it, or what their thought process was in calling for that, calling for everyone to back. Deb goes in, he is getting punished, but he does ult, gets the CC immunity, knock up as well. Let's see if he's able to work his way out of there. He is not, does get executed, but that's a massive hit.
Wow.
Santos taking...
Thanatos still alive, but does fall down to a shot from the power. Now, Skinwalker at some point there ended up under the tower, I think, via a giddy up from Bracking, put them in danger. Dirty Bubble not giving this one up, wants to chase it down, gets one cut, will put the bleed damage onto Skinwalker. The silence shall keep him alive for a moment, but hold on! That's a solo kill for Crooked Stick onto Super Spider Pig on the left-hand side. It looks like Skinwalker will get out safely. Now instead, the tension of Eternal Vanguard turns onto Brown Brazilian. Leaping in his Crooked Stick. Not a care in the world. Just wants to take this fight. Like you said, 3 levels up. Hold on. Dirty Bubble finds themselves taking a big chunk of damage from that tower as well. Just look at the spears flying into the face of Brown Brazilian. Doesn't care, but should surely start caring, because you cannot take him that many shots.
Yeah, I mean, Crooked Stick, aside from that one death that he had, has been pretty much owning, and both games on both 2 different picks with very different styles. I would say the Uller and the Onher, both very different styles, but doing quite a good job. Missed a little bit of an impale there, but that's okay. Caster Curse.
Everyone gets 1. Or I guess 2, because he did miss an impale earlier on in the game, the drop first blood. But never mind, everyone gets 2.
I will say also, Bracking has, quietly been doing an amazing job as well. There was a couple times, and I didn't get a chance to call it out, so I want to make sure I shout out his Oh, another engage along. We gotta.
Right as we go for it, but instead, the fight seems to be turning around now onto Eternal Vanguard. Fantastic damage coming up from Lion Unicorn, but it does get turned around onto them. Now, Glubtuber's sticking around, but that's a very frightening Paolo standing up, and leaping away is Dirty Bubble. Shall be safe now for the moment, and Skinwalker instead will retreat, but everyone wants to brawl. It's just very tough to have enough damage at the moment. I think this is where, unfortunately, Eternal Vanguard are suffering from a lack of big mage damage in the mid lane. It would have worked really well for them there, but this time we saw another big fight there coming up from Crooked Stick. Wants to take it to Super Spider Pig. Not quite successful that time, but it's a very tough match all across the map for Kappa. They really seem to be struggling now.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say one of the things that I've noticed that's been really good to see is the Chiron's cleansing. He's been using that,
Yes.
like you have the cleanse from the Chiron and the shield cleanse from the Geb, and there's a couple fights in mid where both of them like use that on each other, like the cleanse to get the Geb out of the way, like out of harm's way, and then the Geb shielding his Chiron once the Chiron was getting gone on. Like that's been really nice to see that kind of play from both those teams, or both those players rather on the team. But mid lane tower does go down, so both teams without a mid lane to go back to means that these objectives, like a fire giant pull, is a lot more scary.
Woo. Oh goodness, the scythe off the mark from Lion Unicorn, and Crooked Stick takes the opportunity but does not manage with it. Fantastic ages in response to Glubtubus raining fire over the wall. That'll be enough to take them down, but now Dirty Bubble juking out all the shots and the scythes coming their way, but there is no backup coming through. They're not going to be able to get help from anyone. A fantastic stun from Glubtubus will interrupt anything that Dirty Bubble wanted to achieve, and now two members of Eternal Vanguard get punished for stepping up high. And now, Kappa Corp have freedom of the map for a few more seconds.
So, unlike what happened, Crooked Stick actually played that really well.
They did.
He missed a couple abilities, and he was buying time for his team to come over, specifically his jungler to come over. Unfortunately, Bubble is not able to hit pretty much any of the things that he needs to hit, and kind of lets that brilliant play from Crooked Stick kind of go to waste and ends up in a double kill for the side of Kappa Corp. Now they have a man advantage
Range.
and another
Wow.
execute on Scott.
Oh, fantastic ult from Void Pain, and their reward for it is that they shall fall down for it. I think it was a 4-man Cataclysm coming out, and all of the damage that Bracking has to contest this Fire Giant is off the map. Now, no one to tank this just yet, because it looks like teleporting back to the fight is Brown Brazilian. Super Spider Big being chased down by this Fire Giant. They're trying to tank it with the backline, but that's not really going to work here, and instead the backliners are too low and have to retreat. That could have been a Fire Giant there for Kappa Corp, but the pressure coming out from Eternal Vanguard and the possible contention, it seems to have frightened them off it for a moment.
Yeah, they had taken, again, a lot of damage, and neither team really has a lot of sustain to be able to take these fights and then, like, resustain up and go for stuff. Actually, more sustain on the side of... we do see Agni having a Breastplate of Valor, which I find interesting. He has been gone on quite a bit, so feeling the need to utilize that. It does synergize with the tablet and the Book of Thoth, but that means that he's so lacking in penetration, right? Like he has 10 flat pen and 10% pen, and that is oh my god.
Lion Unicorn there. Sixth Sense or wall hacks, I don't really know, but oh my goodness, wants to turn it around into even more. Goes on to Bracking now, execute range for the Chiron, but the wave turns them into danger. Lion Unicorn pinned to the wall and taken out in response at least. Crooked Stick gets one, but now Glubtuber's fighting back, dishing out some damage onto the Scotia. Diving deep is Skinwalker, but look at the damage they've taken. Double stun comes out from your Agni. Brian Brasilia comes in, Skinwalker's still alive, but only for a moment, and now all of a sudden, Brown Brazilian has found themselves isolated from their team. A bit of rain fire coming out from Globulus, but it's a matter of fact, hold on, dashing in is Globulus, takes them down, but now falls down themselves. 4 kills for Eternal Vanguard. They trade out 3. Meanwhile, Super Spider Pig was all the way on the left-hand side. They took it down at tier 1, but they really could have done with being in that fight.
That I would say Skinwalker trolled his team there. He's dashing behind the tier 2 tower. Like his team should have let him die, but they go in. He lives for just enough time to bait the rest of his team into going in to try to turn that fight. Bologna goes in. Or sorry, not Bologna. Brown Brazilian. The Achilles goes in. The Agni dashes in as well to try to like turn that around. And again, once you've done that, you've used up all of the tools that you have. And now with that, Eternal Vanguard resurge. They are here for this fire giant.
It's going to be tight though because Super Spider Pig is also on the scene and there's not big
Brazil.
secure. But there it is already done. They dropped 3 runic bombs to confirm that. But can Kappa Corp get any sort of revenge? They're looking for an execute from Lion Unicorn, but don't get it. Paula comes out from Dirty Bubble to keep themselves safe, as does the Centaurus from Bracking, and that is a smash and grab from Eternal Vanguard. They're ahead in gold and everything. You wouldn't think that that would be a difficult fight for them, but they do take that objective and then they disengage expertly.
Yeah, again, they don't have the best secure, right? Like, yes, Chiron kind of, but and Honor all kind of, but they really were using the space that was created by the last team fight, as they've been doing very well this game, to go for the objective, right? The scary thing is when you have the teleport, when you have these roamers, Lion Unicorn and Brown Brazilian have been doing an excellent job this game. They have been the reason that this Kappa Corporation is still even a conversation while this game is not clear ended. The plays by this Thanatos, the executes by both of these players, and the space that they're creating, the threat that they are posing, is really made up for the left hand side of the map really kind of getting dominated.
Yeah, it's been tough for the dual lane of Kappa Corp. We did see eventually they got some fight back done. Oh, Dirty Bubble actually there loses both relics to just Glubtibus under the tier 1. So, like you said, those major players really making things happen, but it's not been the easiest game for Kappa Corp yet again. It's just tough to get all of these fights rocking. If your Thanatos is not connecting with a absolutely insane amount of damage, everything else isn't quite gluing together just yet. They need to catch Eternal Vanguard kind of unawares, catch them maybe overstepping on one of these sieges, but Eternal Vanguard playing this so slowly, they're not giving any opportunities to Kappa Corp.
Yeah, and I love the way that they're pathing together, and the on her. Even though it looks like if you're the Thanatos, you see Justin on her, and you're like, I don't know, I feel like I could take him, but he's got the rest of his team behind him, and if there is any contention of that 1v1, like just knowing, at least having the recognition that if this on her is stepping up that way, that we have to be mindful of that he's got backup, right? Because from what we've seen of Eternal Vanguard, they've been playing that way. They've been playing in a intelligent manner where they're not necessarily just usually going in kind of willy-nilly, as opposed to Kappa Corp, who have been kind of willy-nilly going in quite a bit, and you don't necessarily know. And maybe that's part of their strategy, that you know, they kind of act as if they're going to have people, or because they've been showing that they don't have people, they bait people into these fights. I'm not necessarily sure if that's the best idea going forward, but um, now finally going into a 5v5, looks like they are going to be pushing this mid lane. They catch out Skinwalker.
Skinwalker in danger, gets Chain CC'd, and that will be it. Father Charon still looking to push with this Fire Giant, our Eternal Vanguard, but they really don't have a whole lot of time left on it, but cares not does the Scotia, diving all the way deep onto Globulus and sends them back to base. Now Super Spider Pig in danger, and the bleed damage will be too much for them to take. Brown Brazilian now trying to dash back to base, but with this Fire Giant buff expiring from Eternal Vanguard, that will be it for the push, but it seems like everything they tried to do just seems to come off right now.
Yeah, and I gotta mention it again. Another build from Skinwalker that really not considering the state of the game. building like a solo laner. Now, on the other hand,
Oh,
Crooked Stick taking a 1v1, losing a 1v1. It does force Aegis early, means he's going to get executed. Looks like they're going to try to punish this Thanatos, and he is going to fall down as a result. 1-for-1 trade, but Fire Giant being off, and both these players are going to be up by the time that this next Fire Giant fight.
yeah, Fire
Uh,
Giant's still about 30 seconds away, so it's going to be a bit of time for the respawn timers to tick down, but it just means that Kappa have absolutely no way of trying to take this Fire Giant yourselves, right? Like, I know they're not really in a position to do that, but you at least need to threaten the Eternal Vanguard. But with no Thanatos on the map, that's pretty much the entirety of the Kappa Corp's success point here. And their win condition, no, just off the map right now. So Eternal Vanguard don't even have to worry about this Fire Giant. They're not concerned that there are 4 people just ready to take that, and they don't have to rush. They can take these buffs. They can shop at the little store that's popped up. This pop-up shop on the right side jungle, and you know it's really taken away any of the onus for Kappa Corp here. They can't make things happen without this Thanatos on the table. But the Eternal Vanguard are making this Fire Giant now start to suffer, but taking it a little bit coolly now. This Crooked Stick on the way. Brown Brazilian steps up. Kappa Corp wants to take an engagement here. It's not going to be the easiest one. Super Spider Pig is here. Dashing in his Dirty Bubble, takes a bunch of damage, but does manage to take down this very, very difficult to deal with Agni. And now Paolo shot connected onto Super Spider Pig. In execute ranges, Dirty Bubble doesn't get executed and does fall down instead to Super Spider Pig. Void Pain wants to chase to get this kill, but it is now a 3 versus 4 on this right side of the map, and Crooked Stick is back on the scene now. It is a big presence of Brown Brazilian off the map, and the steal potential of Glubtibus. I do wonder if Kappa Corp are going to look to contest this.
I wouldn't. It's like really Line Unicorn, like you mentioned, is the heart and soul of this team. He's coming up. They're looking for it. They blink in. Oh, they don't get it. And now I think both of these guys are dead. Line Unicorn first to fall. Skinwalker most likely gonna fall as well. Nice
great
wall.
pillar. Great pillar, leaping over the walls there, Scotia. Skinwalker nowhere to go, just trying to stall, tries to dash away, but there are some long-ranged abilities coming out from Eternal Vanguard. Now, dead for quite some time are both Lion Unicorn and Skinwalker. One Phoenix already down. Eternal Vanguard are without Dirty Bubble for just a moment, but now will be looking to rejoin their team. They're looking to take this left side Phoenix. I don't know if Kappa Corp can defend this.
Yeah, they have their damage dealers online, and Brown Brazilian's up, but that goes down so quickly. Now with EFG, this all right.
Oh my
5 Brown
goodness.
Brazilian, no more frontline again.
Yeah, oh, they're just looking for the kills now. Now Eternal Vanguard really looking to turn up the style. Super Spider Pig trying to fight it back, but despite the regen from the Fountain, is still losing this 1v1 to Crooked Stick. But Crooked Stick takes some damage. Thanatos up into the sky. No relics for the unheard. Never mind, here they are, right on time. Lion Unicorn still takes them down, but will fall down. Meanwhile, the Titan has been taking so much damage from these minions coming in. There is nothing that Kappa Corp can do about it. Eternal Vanguard add on to their 2-0 win in week 1 and get a 2-0 win in week 2.
Yeah, great game. That was a lot of fun to watch. A lot more competitive, I felt like. Especially Lion Unicorn really popping off this game. Unfortunately, not enough. A lot better play from Brown Brazilian this game than he did in game 1. But the support gap, I gotta say again, the builds, the play, the like lack of you know whatever map awareness, like team fight awareness, presence, like the Skinwalker just not knowing where to be, what to do, just kind of willy nilly W king. Meanwhile, Void Pain doing such an excellent job for his team. Uh, and we see the results of that, right? Like it's hard to peel double executes, and that's the reason that um, you had a lot of presence and a lot of success from Brown Brazilian and Lion Unicorn, but the rest of the stuff is not hard to peel. So Skinwalker acting as if the rest of his team is just as strong as these 2 divers, but they're not.
Yeah, it was a very tough situation. It's one of those awkward spots for Charon, right? You want to be the one being aggressive, dishing out the damage, but if your team is suffering because of that, it can be very hard for it to really work out. And I think with the composition that the Kappa Corp had gone for there, it just made it so things were too difficult for them to put together, and they couldn't quite get it all going. But it is still early in the season, Sam. It has to be mentioned. We are only at week 2. There is always time for these teams to turn it around from here. So hopefully, by watching this back, the Kappa Corp can find some things they want to work on, find some adjustments they want to make, and see if they can make anything to turn it back around. But that is it for today. I hope everyone tuning in has enjoyed what we saw. It was a fantastic showing from Eternal Vanguard. Despite how scrappy it was, it certainly made for an entertaining watch. But of course, I have been Judas Priest, the Sam Cobra joining me. That's right, Sam Cobra, not Sam Crowbar. It is Sam Cobra coming with me here. And of course, in the background, we've had Raptor providing all of the visuals that you need to get all this information. But it's been a great day for me, and we'll see you guys again soon at Quack and Smite League.
Dude, 2 wards placed from junglers, that's so fucking troll.